Let's take a breath together. I don't know if any of you have yet availed yourself of the book this month. I'm sobbing my way through this book, literally. I have never read a book that has taken me so deeply, so quickly into the most uncomfortable, undeniable reality of how creation actually works. I have never been more clear about the impersonal nature of the creative process than I am in this moment. It's really easy for us to fall into wrapping ourselves around how the creative process is used to create all the nice fluffy stuff that feels good, and to just put blinders on to how the exact same creative process is used to hurt one another. And that's what this book really brings to the surface. If you're not familiar with Anthony Ray Hinton, I highly recommend that you get to be. On April 3rd, 2015, Anthony Ray Hinton was released from prison after spending nearly 30 years in solitary confinement on Alabama's death row. Let me tell you what put him there. One night while he was locked in a supermarket warehouse cleaning floors in Bessemer, Alabama, a restaurant manager 15 miles away was abducted and robbed and shot by a single gunman as he left work. The victim survived and later misidentified Mr. Hinton as the person who'd robbed him. Despite the fact that Mr. Hinton was working in a secure facility with a guard who recorded everyone's arrival and departure 15 miles from the crime scene, police went to the home of Mr. Hinton's mother, where they retrieved an old .38 caliber pistol which had not been fired in over 25 years, and used it to tie him to recent robberies where 2 people were murdered, based on the gun evidence, which was completely falsified. Based on completely false evidence, despite the fact that Mr. Hinton conclusively passed a polygraph test, they convicted him of 2 murders and sentenced him to death. Now, how does this tie into the creative process? Because what is operating in our belief system shows up in our life. And to think that what shows up in my belief system when I'm in relationship with you won't impact you because you have a different belief system is delusional. It's delusional. Okay? We operate in one mind. That one mind has given every one of us absolute freedom, carte blanche, to use that one mind to impress anything we choose into law, which is just the doer in the one mind. It has no opinion. It has no reject button. So when someone decides that because of the color of your skin, you're going to be convicted of a crime you couldn't possibly have committed, and other people hold that same belief system, you get convicted. Doesn't matter what your belief system is. It absolutely doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your belief system is your home is perfectly safe and someone else wakes up in the morning and decides to rob you. Your belief system is yours, and theirs is theirs. And we have to get really clear that we are each using creation to do what we choose. Now, I know, because you've told me, that y'all are not fond of the R word. Responsibility. Oh, that one. But here's the deal. That's the one that really puts us in a position to liberate not only ourselves, but all of humanity. Is when we choose to take responsibility for what is operating in the collective consciousness, whether we put it there or not. It's there. If you were raised on planet Earth, you have been subjected to the belief systems that have carried us forward. They may not be yours specifically, but to think that they're not operating at some level in your existence is delusional. It is delusional. This is what the prosecutor said before anything ever went to trial. But more so than evidence, I have a strong feeling. Let me try that. It's hard to read this stuff. This is hard. But more so than evidence, I have never had as strong a feeling in trying any other case that the defendant just radiated guilt and pure evil as much as the Hinton trial. Takes your breath away, doesn't it? Let me tell you what was said to him while on the day he was arrested by the officer that arrested him. Mr. Hinton, what am I under arrest for exactly? The other guys said robbery. Who did I rob? You want to know what you're under arrest for? Yes, I do. You're under arrest for first-degree kidnapping, first-degree robbery, first-degree attempted murder. Man, you got the wrong person. Man, we're not even done with you yet. There's going to be more charges. Aker turned around and looked at me in the eye for the first time since I had told him I was at work on the 25th. You know, I don't care whether you did it or not. In fact, I believe you didn't do it. But it doesn't matter. If you didn't do it, one of your brothers did. And you're going to take the rap. You want to know why? I just shook my head. I can give you 5 reasons why they are going to convict you. Do you want to know what they are? I shook my head no, but he continued. Number 1, you're black. Number 2, a white man going to say you shot him. Number 3, you're going to have a white district attorney. Number 4, you're going to have a white judge. And number 5, you're going to have an all-white jury. He paused and smiled at me then. You know what that spelled? I shook my head, but I knew what he was going to say. You couldn't be raised in the South and not know what he was saying. My whole body went numb, like I was under an ice-cold shower in the middle of winter. Conviction, 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 conviction. It might help you really get the depth of this to understand that this happened in 1985. And if we're really being honest, it could happen in 2019. And it is. This idea that I am not supposed to talk about this from the pulpit, that's your idea. If it's yours, it's yours. It ain't mine, and it ain't happening. I cannot. I cannot ignore how we, the collective we, and again, this isn't personal, and yet it is. Okay? Because we all have some level of privilege that allows us, and when I say privilege, I am only talking about the privilege to not look at something uncomfortable because I don't have to, because it doesn't directly impact my life. And we all have privilege somewhere. I don't have to look, if I don't want to, at illiteracy because I'm literate. That's a place of privilege. See, we can get beyond the hotness of the word and start recognizing the unity of where we come together in this stuff. The same operation, the same use of the creative process that creates this garbage is what will heal it. But we cannot heal a thought or a belief system we refuse to acknowledge exists. We can't. Racism exists. Homophobia exists. Elitism exists. It just does. It does because people have the right to believe it, to think it into law and make it happen. See, that's the piece we have to get about this creative process. Anybody gets to use it. Everybody gets to use it however they choose. And just because we don't like it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Now, the miracle of Mr. Hinton just blows me away because he, and we'll talk about this as we go through the month, he held to what he was taught. And his prayer over and over again was, let them find the truth. Let them know the whole truth. I bless the DA. I bless the judge. I bless my attorney. I bless whoever shot these people. I bless the people that were shot. I bless their families. Over and over again, he prayed that. And it took the time it took on planet Earth for that to happen. But make no mistake, it happened because it had to happen. Because when we hold a conviction, when we embody it, it has to happen. We get lost in the time frame that if it didn't happen 20 minutes after we spoke it, ain't going to happen. Ernest Holmes, our founder, in the section, because he knew who we were, let us not fool ourselves. There cannot be an embodiment of the image without the appreciation of what the image means. A person who is always distraught cannot give a good treatment for peace. See, what he's talking about here, and he goes on to explicitly say this, words are words. Treatment is an embodiment of principle. And if you don't really embody it, ask yourself, do you really believe it? See, we embody getting up in the morning. Not one of us heard the alarm clock this morning and laid there and contemplated whether or not we were actually alive and whether or not we would be successful if we opened our eyes and put our feet on the floor. We didn't do that because we have embodied the belief that we're alive. So we just swatted at the alarm clock in our own unique manner and got up. What would change? What will change? Not would change. What will change? When we start embodying the truth of oneness. Not just as a nice idea, but as whatever happened to Anthony Ray Hinton happened to you. Just because you weren't in solitary confinement doesn't exempt you from the experience. See, because if there's only one, happened to all. Just like when I stumped my toe, there's no cell in my body that's exempted from the ripple of that pain. When we stop exempting ourselves with the convenient use of our principles, we will turn this world right. And as long as we keep finding ways to sidestep the experience, to read a man's life and not feel it, because I know there are people who can read it and not feel it. And if I'm being really honest, those are the people that scare me in this human form. Supremacy doesn't scare me. One person's belief in any form of supremacy doesn't scare me. What terrifies me to the core of my humanness is all of the people that blindly follow them. Without question, without examination, without caring what the evidence is. Because it's what they have always believed. That's what scares me. And so my call to action today, where are you blindly following a belief that is so deep that you refuse to examine it? That is so out of congruence with truth that looking at the evidence takes your breath away so you don't. And my invitation to you is to look, to examine those beliefs that operate at that level of automation are the most powerful beliefs in operation, because those are operating from pure faith, unquestioned conviction. If we're going to walk our talk, if we are going to embody these teachings, we have to take responsibility to examine our belief systems. Is there evidence to support them? Or are we just taking on an identity that was passed on to us? In 1919, Horatio Willis Dresser wrote, "We now see that all peace must be social. We now see that all true justice must be social justice. We are all pondering over the meaning of social justice. It could be written today. This is not new. And we get to choose whether or not we want people to be listening to this talk 100 years from now, having the same dilemma, or we can be about the business of healing humanity, of healing this planet. And all it takes is for us to individually examine our belief system, to find the courage to dig deep, to stop looking outside of ourselves and judging anyone else, to look inward, evaluate, investigate. Was your belief system 15 miles away from the crime, locked in a building, and yet you still follow it? Are you operating from privilege because it's more comfortable to do that than to look at where you have privilege? There is no guilt, shame, and blame in what I'm saying. None. We get to look at our belief systems without any guilt or shame. Just look. Is it true? Does it line up with principle? Not with what I say, not with what your spouse says. Does it line up with principle? And if it doesn't, neutralize it. Ernest Holmes didn't say we throw thoughts out because he knew we couldn't. We neutralize them. Just like if you have a tube of acid, how do you neutralize it? You add base until it reaches a point of neutral. So if you find beliefs that aren't true, that don't line up with principle, you add principle until it's neutralized. It's really that simple. There's no taking out the flogger. That serves nothing. Nothing other than to keep you stuck. See, that's the function of guilt, shame, and blame. Because if I feel guilty, then I can focus on feeling guilty. And guess what I'm not looking at now? The lie that made me feel guilty. I probably shouldn't say this from the pulpit, but I got a feeling I'm gonna. Let that shit go. Because that's what it is. That's all it is. Mental crap. Let it go. I did a workshop in Sacramento one day as a visioning class, and I used this magic paper that dissolves in water, and so we did all that, and then at the end, we just dump it out, and somebody commented that now that we've done treatment in the room, we're going to take what's left and send it to the ultimate treatment facility as we flush it down the toilet. So, that's the ultimate treatment facility. Let it go. Flush it. It's crap. Let it go to the ultimate treatment facility. Let it go. All right? We get to stand in the truth of this stuff and feel it and still celebrate because we have a solution. If there were no solution, I get there's no point to look, but we have a solution. Let's use it. Let's take this into prayer. Divine light, infinite oneness, perfect wholeness, creating out of itself, into itself, lets me know that I am in the company of it, as it. with every moment of my being. That every breath I breathe is the divine breathing me. That this power to use it to create is a responsibility that I say yes to. That I speak my word embodying all that that means. To look at everything without blinders, without selection. To stand in the experience of all of oneness. To stand in that experience of my fellow human beings, knowing that there is no separation. Their experience is my experience is their experience. And that as I clean up my belief system, what I'm really doing is cleaning humanity's collective belief system. And so I say yes to that responsibility. Yes to living life unceasingly in prayer, unceasingly in treatment, looking squarely at what needs to be neutralized and embodying and acting from that embodiment of responsibility to do my part using the conscious operation of creation to heal. So grateful for this opportunity to be of service, to stand in that place of truth and allow myself to be used, even when my knees quiver, even when my voice shakes, to be used. Grateful to know how creation works and that it works every time it's tried. And so I release from this place of gratitude, knowing that as the words are spoken, they are already done. So healing of humanity has been spoken. It is happening and cannot be stopped. That is the promise of creation itself. And I stand in gratitude of that promise. And as I do, I know that mine is to release, to let go, and be about the business of embodying this treatment in every breath. And I invite you, if this is your prayer too, to join me as we say together, and so it is. I love you guys.